Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're decoding a really dense but absolutely fascinating academic study looking at commercial banks in Pakistan. And our goal here, we want to uncover a fundamental truth. What genuinely makes employees thrive, or totally fail, in our post-pandemic workplace? We're looking at a sector that is literally defined by intense service demands, high stress, and super traditional hierarchies. And we're extracting the data-driven realities of how human connection, or, the lack of it, shapes the bottom line.
So, what actually drives employee performance? I mean, it's the universal question, isn't it? For decades, the corporate world just relied on strict top-down management to kind of squeeze productivity out of teams. But the data we're looking at today, it tells a completely different story. The answer to peak performance doesn't lie in tightening those hierarchical screws. Actually, scratch that. It's more about moving away from those traditional business structures altogether and focusing intensely on the human experience at work.
Okay, let's dive into this. The researchers coined a brilliant, albeit slightly terrifying term from their findings, the island effect. They found that workplace isolation can completely erode a sense of connectedness and basically leave employees feeling stranded on their own separate islands. It's like you're left professionally stranded with nothing but your laptop and a proverbial volleyball. The emotional stakes in the modern workplace have literally never been higher. To really wrap our heads around this, let's anchor ourselves with a formal definition. Workplace isolation is this deep dissatisfaction with social relationships at work, and it leads to an emotional or physical absence of support. And the researchers are quick to point out that this isn't just some fleeting feeling of loneliness. It is actually recognized as a form of social pain. This kind of pain actively disrupts an employee's cognitive abilities, their attitude, and their overall well-being. It's a literal biological and psychological roadblock to doing good work.
Now, you might be wondering, is this all just academic theory? No way, not at all. That number, 220, represents the usable, highly validated survey responses collected directly from bank employees across public, private, and Islamic institutions in Pakistan. So these aren't just casual observations we're talking about. This is rigorous, empirical data proving the narrative. These 220 individuals basically gave us a window into highly structured, formal work environments trying to navigate the new normal.
The researchers used this concept called social exchange theory to explain workplace dynamics. Well, basically, that just means relationships at work are built on reciprocal exchanges. When employees give effort, they expect support in return. Simple, right? But when they don't get that support, the island effect takes over, and the costs are massive. We're talking decreased creativity, plummeting role performance, huge spikes in burnout, higher turnover in tensions, and even deteriorated physical well-being, things like depression and poor nutrition. So isolation isn't just an HR buzzword. It literally destroys health and performance.
Section 1. The Power Distance Trap. When strict hierarchy hurts the bottom line.
This introduces us to an organizational concept known as power distance. It's basically the degree to which employees in an organization accept an unbalanced distribution of power and legitimize hierarchical differences. You can think of this as the structural counterpart to workplace isolation. In a high-power distance culture, the boss is the absolute authority, period, and the employee is simply there to follow orders without question.
Think about the stark contrast between these two types of workplace cultures. On one side, a high-power distance culture relies heavily on strict hierarchy and psychological dependence. Communication is strictly a one-way street from the top down, and employees have a very real fear of disagreement. On the flip side, low-power distance thrives on decentralization, egalitarianism, open communication, and participatory management. And the data heavily suggests that the high-power distance model actively prevents the open communication and strong interpersonal bonds that we actually need to cure workplace isolation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world impact. The researchers ran some incredibly complex regression models, but the takeaway is striking. Workplace isolation and power distance actively drag performance down. It's a huge negative impact. But then, servant leadership is the one major factor driving performance upwards. It is, for sure, the ultimate antidote.
Section 2. Rise of the Servant Leader, the human-centered solution to workplace isolation.
So, what exactly is this leadership style that combats both isolation and rigid hierarchy so effectively? Servant leadership is a style that prioritizes the growth, emotional security, and development of subordinates. It's deeply rooted in empathy and empowering others. Unlike your traditional boss who demands to be served, a servant leader's absolute primary mission is to serve their team. They build meaningful, long-lasting relationships by putting the employee first.
The servant leader advantage really comes down to a few very specific traits. It starts with sensitive hearing. meaning actually listening to the emotional needs of the team. Then, it moves to authorizing members to resolve their own problems, actively helping them cultivate their careers and flourish, generating value for society, and providing constant sustenance and mentoring. Every single one of these actions builds a psychologically safe environment. They act as the bridges that connect employees, directly counteracting that lonely island effect we talked about earlier.
Section 3. Transforming your workplace. Actionable managerial implications.
The study actually provides a really fantastic roadmap for HR and managers to systematically reduce workplace isolation. Step 1 is to implement inclusive communication rituals. Make sure everyone has a voice in every single meeting. Step 2, establish strong team collaboration norms so that working together is the default, not the exception. Step 3, monitor for early detection of disengagement. Don't wait for an exit interview to finally figure out an employee felt isolated. And Step 4, implement supportive hybrid work practices that maintain social connection even when there are physical boundaries. You absolutely have to proactively rescue your employees from their island.
So the crucial point is that reducing isolation is really only half the battle. You also have to completely dismantle the barriers that keep people apart. You have to temper excessive hierarchy. And you do this by widening employee voice channels, fostering participative decision-making, and actively encouraging upward feedback, where employees actually get to evaluate leadership. And most importantly, you must formally train your managers on those exact servant leadership behaviors we just covered. Shifting the mindset from command and control to serve and empower is a real game changer for trust and individual performance. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative question to chew on for your own organization. Are your employees truly thriving in an inclusive team, or are they stranded on their own islands? Look around your virtual or physical office. Are they in a connected environment where leadership serves their growth? The data is crystal clear here. The leaders who build bridges rather than high towers are the ones who will ultimately succeed in the new normal. Thanks so much for joining us to unpack this study, and I really encourage you to rethink your own leadership approach through this incredible lens.